All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Sorry for the delay. Thanks, John, for the expertise and everyone else that chimed in. Um, Happy to have you guys. I don't have. I have Jake. Jake, why don't you take charge and get us started?
All right, welcome everybody. Um, always call someone to give a prayer or something.
Yep, call on somebody.
Jackson, would you like to give the prayer?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day. We're so grateful that we could have this planning meeting as young men and parents and leaders. And we're grateful for the safety that we have experienced today. And we're grateful for all our many blessings. Please bless that we can have a good rest of our day and that this meeting can go well. And in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Is there any other
Nope,
news
I think that's it. I think it's all we need to cover. You can just turn the time over to Brother Finch.
All right, turn the time over to Brother Finch.
All right. Well, thanks, Jake, and thanks, Bishop, everybody else. Bishop asked that I kind of take the lead on this planning meeting for the week-long backpacking trip, and I'm super excited about it. I mean, if you ask me what my favorite things to do on the planet are, it's probably backpack and hike, maybe a little hunting, but I missed last year not being able to go out backpacking much with the young man, and I think that it's going to be a special week this coming summer for us to get out and about. And I know there's a lot of new young men who are in the program, new deacons, and some that have moved in maybe as well. But it's nothing to be nervous about. It's something to be super excited about. It is, in my opinion, it's the coolest thing we do as young men. And it builds character. It's a testimony builder, patience builder. Anyway, I'm just super excited that we're doing this as a group, and hopefully that we're able to go as a group. I think we will be, hopefully anyway, all go together, and that's kind of the plan. So I put together a quick PowerPoint presentation about what to expect, and it's the plan right now is that we're going to the Uintas, and the Uintas is amazing. I mean, I know that probably each of you spent some time there, being from Utah, but it's pretty spectacular. Again, I don't think we're 100% certain which route we're taking. It will probably be a route that is a loop or one destination to another, not an in and out, which is exciting as well. So just a couple of pictures to go through. And many of you may have been to some of these spots, but I think there's some really neat ones that if you haven't, you have some things to look forward to. This is Kings Peak from the Henry's Fork. We actually camped in this very spot a few years back. Red Castle, very beautiful. Lots of fish. Those are brook trout that taste fantastic. We eat a lot of fish usually on our backpacking trips. This is one of our groups from, I think, 2015, 16 in there. That was I think Kings Peak Red Castle trip. There's a picture of Bishop and Karsten a few years back. One of the group photos. Lots of great campfire experiences. Kermsa is another really beautiful lake. So there's a lot of amazing things to be looking forward to. And I know that maybe some of you, especially if you're new and you have a young deacon this will be their first trip, don't be nervous about it. Honestly, we've done this for a long time. I know that there's a lot of experienced backpackers in the ward that can back this up, but the truth of the matter is that it does not matter one bit how big, how in shape, how athletic, any of those things just don't matter. It's just about the preparation, and that's both physical preparation and gear preparation, and particularly in gear, and we'll talk about specifics here in a little bit. Your backpack size and your shoe size are probably the two most important things that you can have. So I'm just going to keep talking until someone stops me. If you have any questions or if someone sees a chat question, let me know, and I'm happy to pause and answer. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep marching forward.
And I'll watch that, the chat, and I can bring those up to Brother Finch.
Thanks, Bishop. So one thing I'll let you know, that the most important thing you can do as a young man, and maybe as a young man's parent, doesn't matter, again, who or what or how in shape or whatever you are, the most important thing are practice hikes. And the advice I give, and again, there's so many people on this call that would know as just as well as I do, that if you'll start hiking on a regular basis, you're going to be just fine. And I know that, at least personally, that if you'll hike about once a week and make it a hard hike, increasingly harder, you're going to be great on the backpacking trip, no matter what your age, size. It just doesn't matter. I mean, we tried this with Caitlin when she was 6. We did Coyote Gulch, and we worked up to it, and she was fine. We had an 18-mile day on that trip, and she was fine. It was tiring and hard just for everybody, but she was fine. And your kids are going to be fine as long as they prepare. So start hiking. We have a lot of practice hikes planned, but I would say on the off weeks when there's not a hike planned, do something as a family or as a father, son, mother, so whatever. Get out and hike just to have your legs work up to that week-long trip. And the goal is that you work up to it, meaning that, right now maybe it's just hiking and then you slowly add weight. Your packs get heavier and the hikes get steeper and longer. And the goal of that is that when we finish our final preparation hikes, that those hikes are harder than any given day we'll do on our week-long trip. So from a mental standpoint, the young men should be prepared for whatever comes their way and during the week long. Now, there's other factors too. It's been a while, you're out there for several days and whatnot, but we'll do some hikes toward the end, and our final preparation hikes will be harder than any given day that we'll have on the week-long trip. Any questions? Awesome. I mentioned this before, but size, weight, athletic ability, none of that matters, but your preparation does. That's the most important thing, is just getting ready. And again, we've seen it from every body type, size, athletic ability. Anybody can be successful backpacking as long as they're prepared both physically and mentally. And that comes from the practice hikes. Hopefully each of you received this itinerary for the coming months as we prepare. And I think this is it's preliminary in the fact that we have bad weather or other things. These dates may change, but I know one of the mottos that the young men have had in the past is rain or snow, we will go. So what I'd say is we'll do whatever we can do to make these dates. And if we do need to change them, we change them early. And they're largely every other week. And so I would say the recommendation is that for you folks that are kind of new to this is plan on hiking on the off weeks for family night or a weekend or whatever it is, at least keep those legs in shape. But these trips here, or some of them are harder than others. They start out pretty easy. Hidden Valley is only about a mile hike. It's a little steep in some parts, but I think it's a great first trip to get acclimated to what backpacking camping is all about. And then we'll do some others with or without packs, depending on how the young men are doing. Eagle's Nest is the mountain above the mountain. Go ahead.
Let me stop you. So Liz Wolf has a question, and then Jessica asked if we can get this emailed out. I thought that had already been taken care of, but apparently it's not if you're asking the question. So yes, it will get emailed out.
My question was the same as Jessica's. I hadn't seen that yet.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, hopefully you'll get that. There's another packet as well that covers a lot of the material that we'll discuss tonight in detail. And so hopefully that's helpful. But I think the dates look good. I think the end of July is maybe the ideal time for the week long in the Uintas or the Winds or wherever you go. And so those dates, hopefully, I think they're good. I think the last backpacking trip, Grove Creek, Curly Springs, that's a hard hike. That's a really hard hike. And Squaw Peak is as well with packs. That's a tough hike. So when those young men get through those practice hikes, they're going to be very well prepared for the week-long trip, no matter where we go. Any questions about that calendar? And I'm sure you'll get that in the email if you haven't already received it. Great. Okay, let's talk just really quickly about gear. The weight of your pack and how it fits, and as well as your shoes, can make or break the trip for the young man. One of the things I say is, when in doubt, leave it out. If you're not sure if you need it or not, just leave it. Especially when we're in a big group. Usually we have double and triple the stoves and the jackets and all the things we are have cumulatively that we could possibly share. And so I know one of the things that we think is, oh, more is better, and that's not true in backpacking. So weigh everything, question everything. The kitchen scale is great because you may have 2 jackets and one weighs 8 ounces and one weighs 2 pounds. And you may not be able to tell when you're holding that jacket, and weight is really critical for your young man and for your old man. It's important for me. I weigh everything, and I cut my toothbrushes in half and weird stuff like that just to save these ounces. And for when you're old like me and you're working on an injury, it makes a big difference when you can lose a pound or 2 in your backpacking weight. So I know a lot of people have scales. I have a scale if you ever want to borrow it to go through all of your gear. I weigh everything, and I write down those weights, and I keep track of my gear list so I know exactly what I'm taking. And I think that's good practice for everyone. When you write it down, I think you end up being able to eliminate a little bit more weight than you would otherwise when you're just guessing. Probably the most important thing for success, number 1, is your footwear. And the thought process on footwear for backpacking has changed dramatically over the last 30 years. 30 years ago, when I was a young man, it was everyone had their backpacking boots and a couple of pair of big wool socks, and that was kind of the way everybody did stuff. And it's changed. And so right now, I think that most backpacking experts would say that trail running shoes, even some gym shoes, are your best shoe type for backpacking. Trail runners are a little bit different in that they have a rock plate, most of them, that are it just gives you a little bit of protection if you're stepping on rocks all day long, and likely that'll happen for us. However, you're better off having just a pair of gym shoes than you are a heavy boot. You're much more nimble. Your foot is a lot less hot, less likely to sweat, less likely to get blisters, all of those things. So personally, I have the picture there is a pair of, they're just Cascadia, Brooks Cascadias. There's so many trail shoes you can use. When I look, I go to 6 p.m. or Amazon, put in my shoe size, put in whether it's sport, trail running shoes, and click search, and then do sort by discount high to low, and find a pair of shoes that I like. So I never spend more than $50 on a pair of running shoes and hiking shoes, and I go through them quite often. So
Hey, Dan,
yeah, go ahead.
Runner's Corner by Costco. If you want to try something on, that's a good place to go and try on to see if it's a good fit for the boy's foot. And then you can go home and pull it up online and get it that way. But that way, at least you get to try something on first.
Love it. So that's exactly what I'd recommend. Thank you, Zach, for bringing that up. Okay, go ahead.
The Ultra shoes, they have like trail runners and stuff like that. They have an outlet that has moved up to Traverse Mountain. I was actually just up there today, and they have tons of shoes at discounted prices. Some of them have already been like worn and then returned. That's why they're so cheap, but that's a good place to go.
Great. So find something that fits, and if you try it on and it doesn't feel good after a couple of days, take it back and get something different. That your shoe fits is really important. And then in terms of socks,
And Dan, let me also mention, get those early in the season, so you're using those on your hikes, and you know that they work for you.
that's right. So I'll tell you, there's 2 pairs of shoes that I use. One is the Brooks Cascadia. The other is they're called Innovate Rock Lights, and I've never had a blister in either one of those shoes. And I think, and I do I do quite a bit of backpacking. The socks I wear are literally, they are ankle high, darn tough socks that really don't have any cushion or very little cushion. But my feet don't get hot and sweaty like they do in boots or even in thicker shoes and thicker socks. And that may not be perfect for everyone, but it is for me. And I bring on the week-long trip, I bring 2 pair, one that I hike in and one that I put on at night. But they're just very, thin ankle socks. They're wool. I use wool, only wool socks when I'm hiking. But they're go lightweight. They don't need to be thick. So that's my model. That's what I use. And after we get done with this little PowerPoint, I'll show you a pair that I use, and you can go from there. But if you have any questions, let me know. We good with footwear? Awesome. So I think footwear is the most important thing. And number 2 is a backpack, and we'll go over that here in a second. It's always a trade-off between weight and cost. It seems like the good systems, both for backpacks, sleeping bags, pads, shoes, the lighter weight is usually more expensive, but usually there's a benefit with it. What I would say for your sleeping system is around a 30-degree bag that'll weigh less than 3 pounds, and usually they're down bags. And you can find some that are not expensive. I'll show you one that we got for Caitlin that's a 20-degree bag. It weighs less than 2 pounds, and I think it was $65. It's a Chinese knockoff brand, but it's a great sleeping bag. Sleeping bags are required. You need a sleeping pad no matter what. And so a lot of times, you see these thick pads. It's not necessary. A $10 closed cell foam pad, which is the blue pads that a lot of kids have, they work great. Most kids can sleep on anything. When you're old like me, I have to have an inflatable mattress, but they're also expensive. And if you want a lighter one, they're even more expensive. So again, this is why those practice hikes are important. Those practice backpacking trips. If your kids can sleep on those, closed cell foam pad is lighter than the inflatables. They're just as warm. They just may not be as squishy for an old man back. So I would recommend you try, if you don't have anything yet, try the closed cell foam pad, the blue pads. If it's a miserable night's sleep, then you can think about investing or borrowing from someone else. Again, I'll say the same thing about a pillow. For most of my life, I would just use a bag of sorts, maybe my sleeping bag, and fill it with clothes or my jacket, a down jacket or something like that. And it worked fine. I'm at the point now where I have to have a pillow. So that's one of my luxury items, but you can, again, like everything else, if they're lightweight and comfortable, usually they're a little bit expensive. So I would recommend trying out different options with your pillow as well. And again, you can see here I included a little picture of an Amazon cart. That's a really lightweight 30-degree bag. I think it's down for $50 from China. So take that for what it's worth. Any questions about sleep system? Great. Clothing, just if I could just put on here, just stay away from cotton. Just don't bring any cotton and you'll probably be fine. For a base layer, I wear just a t-shirt, and usually I wear a pair of shorts when I hike. If it's a little bit colder, then I'll wear maybe my rain pants. But I just usually wear a long sleeve shirt or depending if it's hot, then I'll wear a short sleeve shirt, not cotton. I always bring either a down jacket or a fleece jacket for when it gets a little bit colder. And in the Uintas, we'll probably have some nights that are cold, some days that are hot, and rain scattered in between. I recommend, in terms of the shell layer, I recommend Frogg Toggs. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Frogg Toggs. They're like $15 for the pair, for the set, for a jacket and pants. And they're as waterproof as any jacket or pair of pants out there. They may not last for 5 or 10 years, but I've worn the same pair of Frogg Toggs for the last several years, and they're great. So I think that's a valid investment for $15 to $20 for a rain suit. So even if it's snowing, you have your base layer, an insulating layer, and your shell layer, and you're going to be just fine.
Hey, Dan, one comment. Jessica mentioned that you can rent items from your gear items from UVU Outdoor Recreation. Another point is we have a ton of gear in this ward. I've had a few boys go through, and I know there are others. And so if any families are concerned about some gear, talk to us, because there's a bunch of extra gear sitting in garages.
Yep. So we have a culture of backpacking, as Bishop mentioned, the ward, and there is a lot of gear. And so if you're unable to purchase some or whatever else, as Bishop mentioned, everybody's got extra stuff. And I know they're willing to share because it's been that way for a lot of years. Thanks, Bishop. Hat, recommend a light beanie when it's cold, and it'll get cold at night. I also recommend a wide brim hat. And though the one pictured here is the best, I think, simply because late July will be a mosquito fest, and a head net is a lifesaver. Baseball caps also work, but those mosquitoes can land on your ears and neck if you don't have a wide brim hat. So I recommend those wide brim hats with the mosquito net, and it makes all the difference. Gloves, I usually don't wear gloves, but some people like to wear them. But you can go with that as well. Right. Backpacks, probably, I think, next to your shoes, the most important thing for your young man to succeed. And it's tricky because, backpacks are expensive, and kids grow out of them. And so I think for a lot of years, the thought was, let's just use my old one when I was a scout or borrow something. Here's what I would say. It's okay to borrow, and there's a lot of packs to borrow in the ward. Make sure it fits. If you have a pack that's too big, your son's going to be miserable. And you don't need to have a very big pack. Not much more than a day pack will work if you're careful with how you pack. And we'll have a lot of opportunity to review those packs with your young men. But here's what I would say. Your fit is the most important part about it. Make sure your torso length and your belt size are correct. If you've got a small frame, you want to make sure you have a pack that's fully adjustable to cinch down tight. As you hike during the week, your waist gets smaller. And if you can't go smaller than a certain size, you could be in trouble. It's just a fact. So make sure you get a pack that's adjustable. If you have a young man who, is a deacon that hasn't done this before, that, is you're thinking, well, it doesn't quite fit. There are packs that are fully adjustable. I've got a pack I can show you a little bit later called the REI Passport that we bought for our kids when they were like 6 and 7, and it'll adjust down to a 5-year-old frame up to a 18-year-old frame. And so you just want to make sure that you have a pack that if it doesn't fit perfectly, it can be adjusted to fit perfectly. I think most of the times when we've had kids that have struggled on these week-long backpacking trips, it's because their pack doesn't fit, their hip belt doesn't fit. And so you're trying to find some kind of cushion to put in the belt or on their shoulders because it doesn't go over their shoulder, and now their hips hurt or their shoulders hurt or whatever it is. So again, those packs are really important. And I'll show you some packs here in a second. I don't want to take too much time, but that you can look at that are great for kids. It doesn't matter how small they are. And as Bishop mentioned there at the bottom, there's a lot of youth packs in the ward that will fit about anybody. So again, some of the packs that are adjustable that work when you're 6 to when you're 16 or 26, they work great. And you can find them on sale. This is the one I show there. That's a $79 pack that would last 45. That's a great pack. It'll last you your whole life. So backpack's very important. Make sure you get the fit, and you're going to be fine. Shelters. There's a few 3-man tent. The most efficient tent spacing is a 3-man tent shared by the boys in terms of weight, right? Somebody takes the poles, someone takes the fly, and someone takes the tent. And that is the most efficient use of space that you can use. Leave the ground tarps, the heavy plastic blue tarps there, those are heavy. You might not realize it until you put it on a scale, but you can buy a space blanket or a little polycro tarp that is equal size, does all the things you need to do with the big one, and it weighs a 20th of the weight, weighs an ounce or 2 at the most. Cooking and water, and again, we use the buddy system for all these. You can buy the stove shown there, that's the BTS 2000, it costs $17. We have a lot of water filters and bags, and stoves, and one stove should be good for 3 people. One water filter, if it's a hydration bladder type, like a platypus or a catadine, will work for 6 or 7 boys because you can filter large amounts at once. So don't think you need to have your own stove, your own canister necessarily, your own filter, maybe your canister, but these can all be shared. Okay,
Keith,
yeah, go ahead.
Keith mentioned that KSL Classified is another place to pick up some gear.
Love it. Absolutely. Thanks, Keith. So I'll just show you quickly. And again, I know you're probably getting sick of hearing my voice. I know I am. Let me just go through a couple quick things. I'll show you quickly here. So these are my pair. I'll just go through the items we talked about. Trail Runner rock lights. These were $35. I got them on sale. The Cascadias for me, or the Innovate rock lights, I love. Those are the 2 pair of shoes, and I buy whichever one's on sale. The socks I use are Darn Tough socks. They have a lifetime warranty. When they wear out, I send them back and get a new pair. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're awesome, and I've never had a blister in them. And again, that's just me. You may have your own ideas as well. In terms of backpacks, you may or may not be able to see this. This is the REI Passport. It's a 40-liter pack. It worked for Caitlin when she was 6. It works for me. It would work for me right now from a sizing standpoint. It's a little heavier. It weighs about 3 pounds. I think it's 3 pounds, 2 ounces. But the size is more important than the weight if you're looking at that. This is Coleman's pack. It's an Osprey Exos 45-liter pack. It weighs 2 pounds, 3 ounces. We take this. He's been on several week-long trips, hunting trips for a week. 45 liters is all you need. And then mine, I also have an Exos, and I have another pack that weighs about 2 pounds. And there's not a lot. Most packs weigh about 3, but you can find it for 2 if you're worried about it. Sleeping bag. This is just Caitlin's. It's a shorter person's sleeping bag, but it's a 800 fill down bag for someone that's under 5'5" or 5'6". So depending on your size, and it was like $60, which an 800 fill down bag will cost you about $600 or $700 if you bought it from a regular retailer. This is the closed cell foam pad, weighs about 5 to 6 ounces, $10 at Air Recreation Outlet. You can give that a shot. Let's see here. What else have I got? Thermarest Neo Air X Lite weighs about 16 ounces. This is the X Therm. It's about $200. So you can see closed cell foam pad works great, and it's a lot more cost effective. This is the Platypus water filter. Again, this will work for 6 or 7 people at once. It filters 4 liters at one time, and so there's a lot of these in the ward. So if you're thinking about it, don't worry about getting that. And I wouldn't worry about getting a stove either if you don't have one already. There's just a lot of them. BTS, $17. That's the stove I use. Weighs 1.7 ounces. The one thing you may want to get for your young men when we do the backpacking trips is just a fuel canister. This is the Jetboil. It's 3 ounces Jetboil, costs you $3. That will cook all of your meals on the week-long backpacking trip. And then I have a little either aluminum or titanium cup that each boy will want to have. This one weighs maybe 2 ounces, and it's a Tokes. I got it on sale. What else? Headlamp, kind of the basic stuff, but all of this stuff can be found pretty inexpensively if you're willing to look around and not be tied to a certain brand. But again, Bishop mentioned this, but there's so many items in the ward that, the Burrs seemed like they had about a dozen kids go through the Young Men's program. All of them had their own backpacks and stuff, and there's a lot of people like that. So if you have questions, if you're concerned about having the right gear, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to talk about it. I wish we could do tonight in person. Hopefully we can in a not too distant future. The practice hikes are great. If you're looking to purchase one thing, I would say get some trail running shoes or hiking shoes for your kids that fit, and then backpack after that. I love it. Fishing stuff too. Again, we'll talk more about what to bring later on, depending on where we go, but it's awesome. Backpacking trips. I think I can say this safely about my 2 boys is their testimonies of the gospel, their ability to do hard things have largely come, or a lot of it's come from those experiences in the mountains. Testimony meeting around the campfire, having to go on when you're tired and exhausted, and you get to the campfire and they're teachable and humble, and those are when special things happen. So this is an awesome trip. I hope everybody's excited about it. This is my last one with my son, and so this is pretty special for me. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. So that's all I've got, Bishop. If there's anything else, let me know.
Just one comment following that comment. For any of the youth, young men in this ward, your fathers are welcome to come. It's in fact, we encourage that. It's a great father-son time, and just happy to have you.
Love it. Yep, love it. All right, that's all I've got. Any questions? Sorry, about gear, preparation, anything else? Awesome. All right, Bishop.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you all for being here and participating. We'll send out the schedule, and then also there's a handout Brother Finch created that talks more in depth about the gear. So we'll send that out to you as well. And then back on that calendar, in 2 weeks, Hidden Valley is our first trip, when we're headed up. So Friday night, come back Saturday. We're still waiting to see. It's outdoors, and if we need to go in 3 separate groups so we can keep to 20 smaller than 20 in a group, we'll do that. Hopefully it's lightened up a little bit and we can just all go together, but we'll make it work somehow.
Is there a way to link or send out the PowerPoint, Dan?
I'm happy to send it to whoever. Information is on the packet that I sent, that I think Bishop tried to send anyway, but I'm happy to send it. What would be the best way to get that out, Bishop, if somebody wants the PowerPoint?
Why don't you send it to me and I'll include it with the other stuff that goes out.
Perfect. Thanks,
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Okay,
What
anything
time are you
else?
planning to leave for Hidden Valley?
What time? Is that what you asked?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
approximately.
4 o'clock-ish.
Okay.
So typically with that, we end up having kind of an earlier group and a later group. So if anybody has specific restrictions or requirements, just let us know, and we can make it work. It's a short enough hike that we can be pretty flexible with that.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right.
Bishop, sorry, I was just going to say, if anyone has any specific questions about gear or whatever, feel free to call or come over. That's kind of the coolest thing about the backpacking trips we do is it gives me an excuse to buy new gear. And so I've got a lot of extra stuff. And I tell my wife it's required, so that's kind of fun.
Awesome. All right, Jake, you wanna close us out?
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and thank you, Dan, for teaching us that. I actually learned a lot of new things. Lucas, could you say the closing prayer?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're glad that we could have this Zoom meeting and Dan could go over backpacking and help us learn new things. And we hope that we can have a good, safe rest of the night. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.